What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go.
What is going on, everybody? John Middlekauff, 3 and Out Podcast. How are we doing? The game plan today is a big mailbag. I'm going to empty this bad boy. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs and get your question answered here on the show. Probably going to break this into two parts. So we're going to answer a lot of questions. Just fire in my Instagram DMs and get your questions answered right here on the show. Very, very easy to get involved. Very easy to become part of the show. You got a question about anything, fire in those DMs and get your questions answered right here. Hopefully everyone's having a good Fugazi Friday. Listen, summer's here. It's cold in the office because I got that bad boy cranked to about 67, but it's about 105 degrees outside. So wherever you are, I'm sure it's probably pretty hot. Summer's here, so let's get our sweat on and let's talk a little football. But before we do, I got to tell you about my friends, my partners in the official ticketing app of this podcast. Gametime, best ticketing app I've ever used. Someone actually just forwarded me a video from the Sphere. And I was like, God, that just looks so awesome. It's not even that far away from me. It's a 5-hour drive, hour plane flight. I got to get there sometime this summer. Love Kenny Chesney. Like I've said, I know people that have seen The Dead, the Eagles. Everyone that goes there loves it. So listen, James Dolan, might regret firing his head basketball coach, given that he can't find a guy to replace him. But what he did with that Sphere clearly looks amazing on the internet, and I'm sure anyone that's listening to this that have been there, it's probably sweet. So if you want to go there, if you want to go to a game, football game this fall, baseball game this summer, comedy show, any event, you can search by the team, you can search by the artist, you can search by the venue. It doesn't get any easier. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Question for the mailbag. Cowboy fan. Naturally, a topic that comes up is whether Dak or Romo was the better player. In terms of career numbers and playoff success, they seem to be very similar. Personally, I think Romo had more arm talent, while Dak is a more accurate and has better intangibles. I ultimately see both as the type of quarterback with whom a strong team around them can have you contending, such as Purdy, Goff, Hurts, etc. What do you think? Love the show. Thanks for keeping us entertained. It's a good question. It'll be interesting to see the version of Dak Prescott that comes back after this hamstring injury. Is his mobility completely gone? Because I think there are different iterations of him as a player. I mean, early on when he was younger and they had some good teams, he was he's never had a huge arm. I mean, like you said, I think Romo probably had a little more pop. But Dak was a really versatile player. And I think that athleticism, and me and Colin have talked about this like during the fall, is his ability to run now after that ankle, shattered his ankle, doesn't really exist. So he's a pocket quarterback. He's actually, this is going to sound crazy, but he's kind of like a less mobile Alex Smith now. Now, when their team was good several years ago and he was really good in the playoffs, I thought they were going to be a major problem, and then he just shit the bed. So, Tony Romo had a little pizzazz to him. There was a little there was almost like a collegiate aspect to him. Favrean, when I'm not comparing him to Brett Favre, but there was just an entertainment factor. Like, had no clue what was going to happen. Maybe he was like a better playmaker, but he was hard to trust as well. It's a pretty good question. I think if your team was just awesome, you could probably flip a coin because you're not going to feel great about either guy in the playoff game. So it's like, yeah, both guys could throw you a bunch of touchdowns and you could win 12, 13 games. But when, January 15th comes and you're playing another 14-win team, you're not going to have faith. So that's where I think it's like, does it really even matter? Or you could argue they're very similar guys. I can't speak to Romo's intangibles, but I didn't view him. I guess I just viewed them as like equals in terms of like good guys, no issues. Yeah, I don't know. Romo was a bad intangible guy. Obviously, Dak is thought of like a high level intangible guy. I assume Romo was too, but clearly, Romo had the issue with Terrell Owens. I would say that aged pretty well on Romo's side. Uh, Guys like him. I mean, they're. I can see when you're Jerry, when you're the coaching staff, it's like everyone likes this guy. He's producing on the field. Like those type players are really, really hard to get rid of. I mean, they really are. That's why they wouldn't have got rid of Romo if his back didn't fail him, and it's why they have shown zero idea or thought of pivoting off Dak. I want to break this into two parts. One, heard your podcast with Coward. I know Rodgers has had a big fall from grace, but I feel like I'm going crazy. This dude is the best thrower of the football I've ever seen in my life, with Mahomes probably being second. The way the media and people on social media talk about this dude, I feel like it's absolutely crazy. I know he's underwhelmed in his career, but I know this team has failed him a lot. Saying this dude had a peak of less than 10 years, to me, is asinine. I always felt like he got hurt by the fact that he didn't have an NFL owner. That being said, this dude was amazing. Am I crazy for thinking the way we cover this guy is idiotic? He needs to stay out of the media and not make everything about him, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer and a living legend. Well, I mean, the last couple years have been a little weird. I mean, there's no way around that. I didn't agree with the way he was covered in 2020, 21. The immunization thing was, let's face it, the media politically, I mean, they all lean one way, especially when it came to COVID. He was not, people internally in NFL front offices, NFL coaching staffs, and definitely in NFL locker rooms were not looking at him weird during that situation. So that situation happened, and that's where I felt like before he was just, I guess he was a little polarizing, but I feel like that's when it took another step. And then, I mean, let's face it, when you start doing darkness retreats, like people are going to think you're weird, and we're allowed to. And I'm all for doing whatever it takes to improve yourself. But when you're public about it and you tell people about it, people are going to judge you. They just are. People talk shit about Tom Brady, but like him eating avocado ice cream and him doing all a bunch of weird stuff and making out with his kid, it works. He wins. When you win, no one can say shit. Rodgers that last year in Green Bay didn't win. They didn't make the playoffs. Then he goes to the Jets, and from his Achilles to last year, like it didn't go well. So when you win, no one can say anything. Michael Jordan got drunk before games, gambled all the time, was an asshole. No one cares. Why? Because he beat the shit out of everybody on the court. Like all that matters is winning. And that's the one thing Rodgers, like he gets compared. I mean, his era was Peyton and Tom. And obviously Tom is just kind of unassailable because he's got all the rings. Peyton took a lot of crap over his career. But he went to 4 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. Now, you're right. I mean, it's not all Rodgers' fault, and he is a living legend. I mean, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the league. But his peak wasn't as long as you think because he didn't start those first 3 years of his career. So he just didn't. I'm pulling up his stat page right now. So he didn't become a starter till 08, which first year starting was pretty solid, threw 28 touchdowns. But let's say like became a really good player 09. They go 11-5. He's throwing 30 touchdowns. So from 09 to basically, I mean, McCarthy gets fired in what, 18? Rodgers did not have a good year in 18. He threw 25 touchdowns. He doesn't throw many picks, but that was always like a coward knock on him. Part of the picks is like, yeah, I'm not willing to make throws that other guys like Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar will attempt sometimes. So I'm like, am I cooking the books on my number? No one's calling him Enron or Bernie Madoff here, but there's a little manipulation. And so his career 09, he did break his collarbone in the 1 year. McCarthy got fired, kind of had a down year. Yeah, I mean, his peak was probably 12, 13 years. It's not all his fault. Like, he didn't start right away, but his peak is not as long as Manning and Brady's. And those or Drew Brees. Those are his, peers, his contemporaries. First ballot Hall of Famer, probably the greatest player in the history of the Packers. Like, no one's arguing that. But when you start doing, documentaries about listen, I'm not anti drugs that help you out mentally, but most humans are not doing ayahuasca. So you start talking about doing fucking ayahuasca in the jungle next to the jaguars and the monkeys. I mean, people are going to make fun of you. So I think there's two different sectors here. I think there's the media who takes themselves way too seriously. That if you've seen like the polling, most human beings don't give a shit what they think about, right? So their hatred toward Rodgers, guys like Florio and stuff, is very politically driven. Most fans of football, I would include myself, are much more, I would say, sarcastic in the way that they talk about Rodgers. It's not as serious, but it's also like you don't get to just smoke peyote in a desert and think like we can't make a little fun of you. So like he gets made fun of, but Tom Brady gets made fun of. Part of being like a super famous guy is people talk about you. I mean, it happens. It's like I don't know what else to say.
The NBA Finals are here, and this is your last chance to bet on the NBA until next season. And the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is pulling out all the stops to make it a finals to remember. One team will be crowned the champ, and the other will be lost to history. Who you got winning it all? Obviously, everyone's picking the Thunder. Not going to lie, don't hate dabbling a little on the Pacers. 5-1 to win the series. It's the NBA Finals. They just destroy the one seed, the Cavs, work the Knicks. I think people are sleeping on the Pacers a little bit. I get the Thunder are good, but I think people are underrating the Pacers. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Who you got carrying their team to the chip? Try placing a bet on your personal MVP to drop 30, 40, or 50. I would expect, obviously, Shea, but definitely Halliburton to have some big games. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and finish the season as a winner. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, bet $5, win $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Sports media made everything Rodgers ever did or said into an absolute massive deal. Do you think if Aaron just kind of rolled under the radar and didn't say much, he'd be looked at like a top 5 quarterback all time? I think a lot of talking heads play revisionist history and forget the 4 MVPs. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I think a huge pivot point for Aaron was the immunization comment, where the media was like, I just think that's when they really turned on him. They really did. And because he used that word, where guys like Cousins, there was a lot of guys in the NFL that didn't get it. Hell, I know coaches that refused to get. It was not like he was not alone, right? I remember the Golden State Warriors. There was a mandate in San Francisco for Andrew Wiggins to be able to play home games. If he didn't get it, he wasn't going to be allowed to play. But you could be a road player and play the Warriors, and the mandate didn't count. So he didn't want to get it. Obviously, looking back, a healthy guy in his 20s definitely did not need it, had no choice, right? So, it was a very controversial issue in the locker rooms. Why? These guys are young, the peak of health, yet they're being forced to do something most of them did not want to do. They're not alone. A lot of society was that way as well. And the media was all on the other side. Do it or else. We will fucking destroy you. So then when that happens, Aaron then has this huge grudge against them. At least this is my take on it. And then he goes overboard on all this other stuff, which again, I think most people are making fun of him about the ayahuasca, the darkness retreats. If you do a darkness retreat, even if you tell me there are a lot of benefits, people are going to make fun of you. And I'm not talking about some dude that went to Big J school that's 60 years old, overweight, that writes for the local paper. I'm just talking about me, you, and normal human beings. We would make, if one of my friends on a group text said, hey, in 2 weeks, I'm headed to Ecuador, and I'm just going to be in a hut, and there's going to be no light, and they call this thing a darkness retreat, and for 3 days, they give you some water, they give you some protein,
And it's just no AirPods, no phone, just going to be me, my thoughts, and the jungle air. You think you'd be like, oh, yeah, totally sweet idea. That'd be fun as fuck. Awesome. Let me know how it goes. You think we'd go like, what are you talking about? As a proud Virginia Tech graduate, born and raised in the Commonwealth, I grew up in the glory days of Beamer, when Beamer ball and stars like Michael Vick, D'Angelo Hall, and Cam Chancellor electrified Lane Stadium and put the Hokies on the national stage, culminating in the 99 national championship game. Since Beamer's retirement in 15, Virginia Tech has struggled to rise above the mediocrity. Just inconsistent seasons under Fuente and now Brent Fry. We got absolutely ran through in-state recruiting, and kids do not view Virginia Tech as it once was in state. Meanwhile, Deion Sanders in Colorado has leveraged his superstar status and the Deion effect to attract top talent through the transfer portal like Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, and the number one offensive tackle in the class last year. Given Michael Vick's recent appointment as the head coach at Norfolk State, question for the pod, is the real Deion effect real? Do you feel as a program that basically, I cut off the question, but I remember taking a screenshot of it. Like, do you need a big name, famous guy in this modern day landscape? The reason Deion Sanders, one, I mean, he had a unique relationship with Travis Hunter as a kid, but the OT, the number one player, you are landing players because of money. So if you have a lot of money and you could pay guys the last couple years, you could land big recruits. The reason BYU has the number one basketball player is because they paid him a lot of cash. The reason Michigan got this quarterback last year is because Larry Ellison and crew gave him like $12 to $15 million guaranteed. That's why Nico ended up at Tennessee out of high school. They gave him $8 million guaranteed over 4 years. Like it's not. This isn't about like, can you resonate with my parents at the dinner table while we're eating appetizers? No one gives a fuck. I'm not saying that you can't like can't be some human interaction, but over the last several years, if I'm offering you $100,000 and another team's offering you $800,000, you're going to the team that is offering you way more money. It's all been about the money. 100% period, point blank, end of story. It hasn't been about the history of the program or Frank Beamer and how great their special teams were. And Michael Vick went here in 1999. It's 2025. Can you get me a Range Rover or Denali? Because if you can't, then Nebraska can. See ya. Adios. I mean, that's really what it's become. I mean, I think we overthink when I hear people talking about recruiting, or even the last couple of years when like so-and-so was the national recruiter of the year. It's like, give me a break. I've always thought, Football Scoop does a good job. Like, it's a website that a lot of coaches look at. They're just pretty dialed in with college football. And they always have awards at the end of the year, like national, and Rivals did too, like National Recruiter of the Year. It's like, guys, the best recruiters usually at the biggest schools handing out brown bags. This is before NIL. They're not just recruiting because they have a good personality. Like Saban has a big personality, but I got news for you. Alabama was paying premiums. It's funny. Everyone always looked at John Calipari like he's just buying players. Like Coach K wasn't. What the fuck are we talking about? Nothing ever bothered me more than the disingenuous nature of some people that covered college football pretending that in basketball and football, people were not getting paid. I'm not against it. Never have been. But when people pretended like this is Jay Billis always used to drive me nuts. It's like, Jay, your school is paying a premium for all these players. Good, rightfully so. I read the comments about JJ and the take you and Colin had. While I don't necessarily disagree, most of the comment sections did. They had some good points. One of them was that if the Vikings are so close to a championship roster, why would they not sign Sam? You and Colin said they wanted to. Also, you said Sam or JJ never threw the ball at Michigan. And while that is statistically true, it's completely taken out of context. They ran the ball on first and second on the ground, and oftentimes JJ would bail them out on third and long. Harbaugh only had Andrew Luck throw the ball 4 times more per game. and the team didn't have the offensive line that Michigan did. Also, JJ won the Natty as a gunslinger and IGM Academy and then transferred to Michigan. Given those points, what is your take? Comparing JJ McCarthy to Andrew Luck is pretty laughable. Andrew Luck would have been the number one pick in every draft for the last 25 years. Trying to think even a player that maybe Stafford, because he had a bigger arm, would have been the argument. But I still would imagine Luck would have gone number one over Stafford. J.J. McCarthy was the fifth quarterback taken in his own class. The fifth quarterback taken in his own class. He's not nearly the prospect of guys in his own class. So it's like, I hope he bailed him out. I mean, the guy was a top 15 pick. Point is, if they wanted to re-sign Sam, they weren't going to give a guy a $100 million contract. I don't blame them after those last 2 weeks, but J.J. McCarthy is a great unknown. Could he be good? Of course he could. Could it not go well? 100%. Are there similarities to Michigan? Yes, there are. But the difference is, when J.J. was at Michigan, their coach called a lot of run plays. Kevin O'Connell likes to pass the ball. That's what he does. He wants to throw the ball. So if JJ can throw the ball, they'll be okay. If he can't, they're going to have issues. Looking to gift dad something he'll actually wear? Well, Travis Mathew's Father Day bundles let you build your perfect outfit, starting at just $100. Polos, shorts, hats, wearing them all right now, and their fan favorite open to close pant, mix and match to fit his style for your budget. A hat plus a polo is $100. A polo plus shorts, $150. A hat plus polo plus shorts, $175. Hat plus polo plus any open close style pant, $200. Build your own bundle with polo shorts, hats, and pants, and score serious savings while you're at it. You can't beat that. That's a pretty good deal. From $100 to full outfits, their best-selling open to close pants, their package the deal to fit every single dad. Visit TravisMathew.com. That's TravisMathew.com. Great show. Listening to your take on the Pittsburgh and Rodgers brings me back to everyone always saying the teams that the worst place to be is in the middle. Does bringing him in make sense in the long-term plan? Wouldn't it be better to roll with the second-tier quarterback and even trade TJ and rebuild, especially when their quarterback class is building up to be good? Starting Mason Rudolph would probably get you in the top 5 or 10 picks. They're just not going to do it. So I think when you look at the situation, which I respect. You know, I saw Utah hire Danny Ainge's son to be their GM, and one of the things he said in the press conference is like, we're not going to be tanking anymore. Imagine even having to say that. Yeah, we're not going to tank anymore. I mean, obviously that's a different sport, but I mean, it's ingrained in the culture in basketball, is tanking. And football, it is just not only not tolerated, coaches and players refuse to do it. Because at any moment as a player, you can be cut. And football, at any moment, you can get fired, right? Regardless how many years you have left. So everyone tries. And the nature of the sport, you got to try. So everyone's trying. But, you know, the Cleveland Browns are thinking big picture with some of their moves. The Steelers are obsessed on a yearly basis, which, for one hand, you have to respect. But over the course of the last, 6-7 years, guys, we've kind of stalled out here. We're a well-run organization. We're never going to suck. But when we look at the Bills, when we look at the Ravens, who aren't even on the level, those two teams cannot beat the Chiefs when it matters. We can't sniff those two teams, let alone the Chiefs. So what are we going to do? And the answer is we're just going to keep trying to win 9-10 games, which is what they're going to do. And your idea of should they trade TJ and start, they're never going to do that. They're just never going to do that. So, they're dependent on a 41-year-old player who doesn't move like he used to. As someone said earlier, he still throws the ball well. I've always argued, Dan Marino, I bet if you just gave him a football and went to a park right now and you just watched him throw a 20-yard spiral, you'd be like, damn, Marino can sling that pill. Aaron Rodgers can be able to throw the ball till he's 70 years old. But what made him a great player was the ad lib, the instincts, the movement, right? He can make a great throw from the pocket, but like he was the total package. And that's not quite the same. Now, I think Arthur Smith said this yesterday. Like, we didn't trade for DK and sign Aaron to run the wing T. So they're going to push the ball down the field, but where they need to have success, and this is what Matt LaFleur did when he got the Green Bay job, is they ran the ball and slowed down the game. So if you get this kid they drafted from Iowa, I think he's going to be a beast. Hand him the ball, hand Jalen Warren the ball, utilize your tight ends. They got multiple tight ends. I watched Rodgers' press conference yesterday. He was like the Washington kid, the dude from Georgia. He's like, he reminds me of Mercedes Lewis. They got Freiermuth, so they got 2 tight ends. They got a couple running backs, and just slow down the game and play big-time defense. They're going to give T.J. Watt an extension, I'm sure. They just drafted the dude in the first round to play defensive tackle. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick, and kind of get back to some of their roots. So I would expect, the Steelers to kind of look like an old school team. And if they're going to have success, that's what they're going to have to do. A lot like when Arthur Smith was with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Not sure if you know this, but is Shemar Stewart technically a free agent, or is he a Bengals player for a certain length of time, even if he doesn't sign the contract? I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to talk about Shemar Stewart. To answer your question, they own his rights. Now, I think technically if he didn't sign the contract, over the course of the year, he could re-enter the draft in 2026. But he would have to sit out the entire season, which, I think he was a fringe going into the draft, top 15, top 20 pick. The Bengals took him right around, 17. With not playing a year, where would he get drafted? And he would have to sit out and obviously wouldn't make any money this season. It would be a complicated situation. I would expect, if I was a betting man, that this will get worked out. But this situation has kind of jumped the shark. And I don't remember, before 2011 and they redid the CBA, there was just like there was a lot of back and forth with the contract negotiations, right? And typically it was these Jamarcus Russell, and he's had these huge holdouts because you were talking a astronomical amount of money. That's kind of ended. Every once in a while you get some back and forth, but for the most part, you get these scenarios where it's like, this is the deal. Just sign it. And guys just sign it because it's like slotted in. And this situation for him to say, kind of shit on the Bengals, also bring up Trey Hendrickson, and then leave before the camp ended, you're like, this has become a problem. And speaking of problems, let's welcome you to Chasing Challenges, brought to you by Microsoft. In the NFL, just like in the business world, overcoming obstacles is the key to success. Microsoft empowers business decision makers with AI solutions, simplified cloud and data management, and trustworthy, responsible technology to turn challenges into opportunities. In this segment, we will explore some of the biggest challenges being faced in the NFL and how they can be overcome. Whatever challenge you're facing, Microsoft empowers you with the expertise to say, bring it on. This week, we're discussing the challenge faced by the Cincinnati Bengals. I think we've talked about this a couple times. Eventually, I just thought, like, he's going to eventually sign. This will go away. And then the kid was like, this is ridiculous. I'm out of here. So as Shane, one of our producers here at The Volume and for our show, texted me that this guy just left while the guy that he was replaced or drafted to replace is also holding out. So safe to say, the Bengals got some issues. And I saw their center was speaking to the media like, listen, hopefully this can get worked out. There's no animosity in the locker room. This is a bizarre organization. And they have had a lot of issues over the years. I mean, they once had a star quarterback that just say, I quit. Not like I'm retiring like Barry Sanders or Calvin Johnson or Patrick Willis. Like, yeah, my body's giving up on me. I don't want to play anymore. I'm retiring early. This is like I quit. I under no circumstances can I ever play for you again. I still want to play football, but if I got to play football for you guys, I'd rather just sit at home with my family. I'm not sure what happens here because the Bengals have kind of been embarrassed now. And one thing they've shown, and I think anyone that knows an old school, I would say someone with the kind of an archaic mindset, it's hard for them to pivot. And the Bengals have proven that they've been stubborn over the years in general. And now this rookie who's never played a snap in the NFL is putting them on blast. It's one thing to go through a contract dispute and have issues. It happens. It's another thing to make it this public. And now that he's left camp, I actually think Mike Brown and the front office might dig in more. So it's like both people. It's like a road rage situation where you're both mad at each other and you pull up to each other next to each other at the stoplights and you're both flipping each other off. Who's going to put their hand down first? I don't know. And clearly, Shemar Stewart and his agent and the way that they're going over this are not happy. I mean, the Bengals cannot be thrilled with this situation. And this is what we talk about all the time. Zach Taylor being as a head coach, his job is to massage all of this because eventually he's going to need Trey Hendrickson. He's going to need Shemar Stewart. I mean, a huge part of the reason this team, with Joe Burrow having an MVP type season, Jamar Chase having one of the best seasons I've ever seen from a wide receiver, missed the playoffs, was because their defense sucked. And their two, in theory, best defensive linemen are just like at odds with the team over finances. And one, we don't even know if he can play yet. It's like, is Shemar Stewart good? I don't know. I know Trey is, but Trey clearly is not happy. And this is one of those situations that, the Bengals are truly, there's a small list of these teams still, but kind of a mom and pop shop. And it's not Zach Taylor is not the one in charge of the finances. Honestly, he has no pull in a situation like this. So luckily they're going to summer break, but sometimes everyone take a deep breath. But training camp's not that far away. I mean, is Shemar Stewart just not going to show up? Are they not going to give in? And if they do give in, what was the whole point of this to begin with? And while dealing with the situation, what are they going to do with Trey? Are they going to pull the trigger and trade for him or trade him to someone else? Would someone be willing to trade for him? Because not only would you have to give them probably a first round pick, you'd have to give Trey probably $100 million. So it's not like you're getting him cheap. So it's a complicated situation. And Zach Taylor, who most people think average coach, who benefits from having Joe Burrow and some sweet offensive players. I don't think anyone's, confusing him with an Andy Reid with a Sean Payton. But this is a situation that wouldn't be easy for anyone. That's it for this week's Chasing Challenges. Remember, Microsoft's AI solutions empower you to take bold steps and make informed decisions, sparking new ideas to help drive your business forward. With Microsoft as your trusted partner, you can navigate your journey with confidence, finding innovative solutions and reaching new possibilities. Visit Microsoft.com/challengers to learn more.